So we got the general membership meeting. Welcome, 1st of March, heading out the door, but in like a lion, out like a lamb. That's back in the old days for those people that live in those areas where there's a lot of gusty spring weather. Maybe it will be for us too. Here's the agenda. We got CFIG Eric Haupt, and he's going to go over some pre-flight preparations for gliders and the pilots. A lot going on there. And then Noel Wade, our cross-country expert, or one of the many cross-country experts. I think looking at some of the bios of the guys in the Towline and they're flying, like Mike Newgard flew in the World Gliding Championship. That's pretty cool. So that's definitely going into expert cross-country flying. So we've got a little bit of discussion of the McCready stuff continuing, and just as a heads up, Mike is always open for getting some questions that would be for like mentor topics and things that you would like to go over. And he said he is happy to go over those topics, and he's also happy to get help. And if somebody else wants to kind of tag along and help him with these topics, it would be great. And gosh, I had a phone call with him, and I asked him questions for a half an hour, and he was really helping me out. So after we do the McCready discussion online, we'll continue with general membership questions and answers, and then of course we'll have the presenters being able to put some questions out in between. Just to get you primed and pumped up, this is kind of what it looked like sitting in the hangar there at Metal. You guys can see that. Look, the day is built up, and I think that Henry Rebick flew 700 point OLC flight that day, which is not easy to do inside the state of Washington. So it was kind of neat. And let's some mentor flying with Flora in there after landing, and I think we had a 4-hour mentor flight racing around the Metal. So some things to get ready and look for and think about what might be some possibilities coming up in the spring and the summer. We got a bonus question. If this is later on, and no one has to chime in or raise their hands right now, but name that cloud. It kind of has a little bit of a horseshoe shape to it. So we'll see if anyone can think about what the name of that might be, or what the purpose of that cloud, or it doesn't even have a purpose, is it good or bad? And then a big thanks to Jim Dobberfuhl putting out he pulled the Towline out of the dustbin. And it's the last one groups I saw of them online was in the year 2015. So this even has a picture of the venerable X3 glider. Many folks have flown that glider and had some fun flights throughout the Northwest in that ship. So Jim, thanks a lot for working on that. And it was great to see an effort on that. And thanks for helping us with that communication tool for the membership. And I think it's going to be something that we can continue to do. And if we find a volunteer, I know Heinz did it for a long time. And if we can find a volunteer that would like to help us with some future articles or editing or formats or things like that, we're all ears. And there's a lot probably easier ways of doing it than the last year of publication, which was 2015. So
actually, I think Heinz had 20 up to 2017 is what I could find in my email. But Heinz did this for years, and I'm really grateful because he was so dedicated for years on end. Unfortunately, there was no relief in there. So I think we've got a lot of stuff to publish now, and I think with a little bit of effort on everybody's part, we can come up with some really interesting topics and publications here, especially with the new technology.
Yeah, and I think having a wealth of things to read in the wintertime, I think it's kind of a nice thing. I had a couple of Soaring magazines that oh yeah, I didn't even read most of that one. So I've kind of pulled things out, and then having the Towline available to know what's going on locally, I think would be really awesome. And I forgive me if I didn't see those ones on 2017. I just kind of clicked through some of the other ones, and
no, it was just an old email. It was ancient email, but yeah,
but that's the time frame. So it's been a while, and one of the things we want to do is number one, communicate to members so the members know that we're here and we're communicating back and forth with everyone that needs any help or information about the upcoming activities. But also we want to communicate to those outside of the membership. So if you're in an organization and someone asks you what it is, well, we can point them to our website and they can go there, or there may be some other people that would like to read something, and this could be published a little farther and wider for our members. Speaking of Jim, I don't think anyone can really see that on their screen, but I'm sure they recognize that as the intersection of the runways there at Freda. And that little tiny white dot down there is a Pawnee taking off. No tow rope or nothing, just some guy joyriding out there on his first flight in the Pawnee. And that was Jim Dobberfuhl getting his checkout a couple of years ago, with Ron Bellamy giving his checkout. And you have to admit, it's kind of, it's always a neat checkout for a CFI when he has to check someone out in a single seat aircraft. So great job on Jim doing that and earning the trust of his instructor and the SGC as well, and being checked out as a tow pilot. So he's done the tow line and he's checked out as a tow pilot. So we really appreciate his efforts on that. Let's see, one other thing. I think we got towed up. We were, I was the first glider that got towed up by Jim. And I think this is an example. The guy's getting ready to go fly there. You can see Ron in the back seat. He has probably about 10, 15 knots of wind on that hairdo right there. So he's high speed, ready to go. And I think that's all of the slides I had here. So with that, I had one more bonus slide I'll ask at the end of the presentation. So Eric, are you on board? Do you want to take control of the meeting and be able to share your screen, etc.?
Hi, Phil. How do you hear?
Good. I can hear you loud and clear.
Okay. Yeah, I want to apologize in advance for any background noise. I'm currently at the Los Angeles airport.
You are in a pretty quiet area for an airport. So, but we do expect at any point in time that some passenger will come along and see a guy wearing an airline uniform and ask him like where gate C-23 is or something like that, and you will have to help them out. So I know exactly what it's like, man. Yeah,
I'm ready to share my screen here.
Okay, I am calling it up here. I'm gonna stop my video. And I've kind of lost some of my settings here, so hang on just a second. Somewhere in there, my okay. So pardon the dead air time here. I see you there, Eric. Oops. You are made the host right now. And do you see that you have been made the host? You are muted right now, Eric. You may be. He actually may be answering that question of the passenger at this point in time.
Okay, am I a host now here?
You are a host and off mute. You're good to go.
Can you see the screen?
Not yet. You haven't shared it. It doesn't look like.
Okay, stand by here.
Phil, you may need to unshare yours.
Got it. Okay, I think I've unshared my screen.
Okay, how about now?
You're on board. Your screen is being shared. You're good.
Okay, thanks for your help. Anyway, so once again, I apologize for the background noise. Probably going to make announcements here every 20 minutes or so. Anyway, so I've been invited by the Seattle Glider Council, actually by Jim. Jim reached out to me and he asked me to present this topic. I think it's a great topic. Many guys have not been flying for over a year now. And it's always a good topic to review. And it's about the responsibility and authority of the pilot in command during pre-flight preparation and procedures. And for better experience, I kindly request everybody to mute their microphone and turn off the camera. That's going to help a little bit out with the connection. The duration is about 1 hour. I want to thank the Seattle Glider Council for the invitation. Special thanks to Jim for reaching out to me and for everybody here attending today. We'll review the regulatory requirements and establish best practices. So what's the goal today? The goal is to understand the responsibility and authority of the pilot in command during pre-flight preparation and procedures. Me being a flight instructor over the past years, I've given flight instruction in 2 glider clubs in Pacific Northwest. And I've noticed that not enough emphasis is being placed on pre-flight preparation and procedures. Too often emphasis is being placed on flying only. Just keep in mind for everybody, takeoff is optional, landing is mandatory. Pre-flight preparation and procedures are critical to flight safety. And again, especially for those who have been taking a break over the past year, this presentation is a good reminder of the responsibility that we have as a pilot in command. So that said, 91.3 says the pilot in command of an aircraft is directly responsible for and is the final authority as to the operation of the aircraft. Especially conducting a glider flight operation, for example, a glider aerotow operation, there are many people involved. You have a glider assembly crew, a ground handling crew, field manager, wing runner, glider pilot, tow pilot, and a glider disassembly crew. And each pilot in command relies on this crew, some of who may not be trained, certified, or even recognized by any governing body. Each pilot in command requires and leads this integral yet legally invisible crew prior to each flight. Aviation safety is based on standards. These standards are based on compliance of regulatory and recommended procedures. The crew needs support, watch, and challenge one another in order to create a strong safety culture. The pilot in command ultimately needs to lead this crew. So he needs to verify, for the safety of flight, for the safety of operation, that everything is synchronized. So what's the difference between pre-flight preparation and procedures? Well, pre-flight preparation are a series of actions or steps taking. Pre-flight procedures, however, is an established or an official way of doing something in a prescribed order. Some of that which is regulatory. So let's take a look at common tasks that are involved during pre-flight preparation and procedures. You have, first of all, determine the pilot qualification, assembly, pre-flight assessment, equipment, performance limitations, risk management, handling and staging, and ultimately briefing. Now these tasks here, these 8 tasks, they're not necessarily in sequential order. However, at some point, all 8 tasks have to be accomplished. So what point is or should the pilot in command, or should the pilot be in command of an operation? Let's review the regulatory requirements as far as pilot qualification. Pilot qualification, first question we got to ask ourselves is, are we legal to fly? In order to find that out, we must know what the requirements are. In addition to the requirements listed here, it's also good to understand what the difference is between currency versus proficiency. And also whenever 2 pilots fly together, there must be a briefing and a clear understanding in advance about who will be acting as a pilot in command. Assembly. Operating a glider requires meticulous assembly and pre-flight inspections. Proper assembly techniques followed by a close inspection of the glider using checklists contained in the GFM or POH. All those are essential to flight safety. The GFMPOH contain checklists. If they do not, then you can develop your own prior to every flight. Wrong assembly procedures can lead to unsafe conditions. Now, there are many manufacturers that provide a critical assembly checklist to be completed. When those are provided by the manufacturer, those are mandatory. Pre-flight assessment, there are two parts of this discussion here. Number one, determine the airworthiness status of the glider, and number two, do a visual pre-flight inspection of the glider. As you know, the term airworthy means that the glider and its component parts meet the type design or is in a properly altered configuration and is in a condition for safe operation. Each glider has logbooks which are used to record maintenance, alteration, inspection performed. Pilots must view or review those maintenance logbooks prior to flight. Now, they're not required to be on the glider, but it should be a matter of procedure by the pilot to inspect those logbooks, or at least a summary sheet of the airworthiness status in order to determine that. The visual pre-flight inspection is an important step, and it's basically your last opportunity to mitigate any flight hazards to ensure that the glider meets regulatory requirements and is in safe mechanical condition prior to flight. Know which items need to be inspected, the reasons why they need to be inspected, and how to detect possible defects. Equipment. Prior to a flight, know what the equipment requirements are. You got parachutes requirements, oxygen, tow rope requirements, possible emergency equipment, survival gear, transport ASB, so forth. Know what those are. Know whose responsibility is, for example, the tow rope. The glider flying handbook published by the FAA says that the glider pilot is primarily responsible for the inspection and the selection of the proper tow rope. However, the tow pilot has a responsibility to ensure that the tow rope selection meets the criteria stated under Port 91 and is acceptable for use. So there has to be some coordination there. Performance and limitations. Understand all factors involved that affect glider performance, such as weight, atmospheric conditions, runway surface condition, and of course, fundamental physical laws governing the forces acting on the aircraft and the flying techniques recommended by the manufacturer. The performance and operational information section of the GFM or POH contain operating data for the glider. The use of this data is required and is mandatory for safe and efficient operation. Especially when you transition to unfamiliar gliders, you got to become familiar with all pertinent information. The pilot and command action should also include some, level of risk management, assessment of risk factors that contribute to safety of flight. There are a couple of acronyms here: PAVE, I'm safe. So that works, and that's primarily during pre-flight procedures. Understand concept of SRM and CRM. In approximately 85% of aviation accidents, the NTSB has determined that was caused by the failure of the pilot to conduct proper risk management. And as you know, risk management is a decision-making process designed to identify hazards systematically, assess the degree of risk, and determine the best course of action. And especially conducting pre-flight procedures, it's a great opportunity to conduct that risk assessment because it gives you time. That go, no-go decision is a really important one. Handling and staging the glider. Moving a glider on the ground requires special handling procedures, especially during high winds, for example. So know what those are. And then you have the briefing. There are many briefings involved in this activity. Those cannot be underestimated. And you have to find a way of conducting those briefings in a timely manner and, brief the most pertinent items that could impose a possible threat to the operation. And then, of course, identify the threats and then be able to mitigate those threats. Having an emergency plan is really important. And, it's also required, as you see here, by Part 91, depending on what that briefing is. Anyway, so best practices. The final decision and responsibility always rests with the pilot in command, which in this case would be the glider pilot. Know the regulations, know all available resources, follow flight safety practices and procedures, don't take shortcuts, and apply risk management. Now, there are many resources available to the pilot. The ones here are a good start. The glider flying handbook contains great information. It's good to read and reread it, several times. Risk management handbook. That risk management handbook is actually helpful for any type of aviation activity, not just for gliders. And then the FAA safety team has many great seminars and webinars on topics related to flight safety. Are there any questions or comments?
Eric, it sounds good so far, man.
Yeah, that's
Hey,
that's
I
all
have
I
a
got.
question.
Go ahead.
So in glider clubs, what would be a good way to get those maintenance records? Yeah, that's always been an issue.
Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, the pilot in command has a responsibility to determine the airworthiness of the aircraft, and in order to do that, he needs access to the maintenance records. Now, what I would recommend is to come up with a sheet, a summary sheet of the airworthiness status. For example, you're going to have, due dates for the next annual, due dates for the next 100-hour inspection, and recurring airworthiness directives. Some summary sheet that could be in the folder of the field manager or on the table that is accessible to all glider pilots flying that day. Maybe online, maybe post that information online, so that that's going to just facilitate that information.
Oh, all right. Thanks, Eric.
What else?
Hey, Eric, this is Phil.
Go ahead.
Can you go over some of the questions that popped up for folks that had that were trying to get their 3 takeoffs and landings in 90 days, and then addressing currency with 2 people flying in the same glider together, but neither one of them are current, and things like that?
Do you want me to go through the scenarios?
You can, or you can talk about some things that you've seen in your other interactions with other pilots, either as a CFIG, or you can relate it to other incidents that you've heard about. And it doesn't have to just be in the Pacific Northwest either. It can be in other locations, and describe some of the challenges that you see for people making sure they have enough takeoffs and landings in the past 90 days. And then also how you would like to see that in their logbooks, as well as a
Hey, are you
flight review.
joining our Zoom meeting for the SGC meeting?
Hey, Mike, you're not muted right now. I think you're on a.
Yeah, well, the basis for that is to know the regulations, know you're a pilot, that you're a qualified pilot to conduct, uh, the specific flight operation. You have, you have to be a certificate holder. Uh, you have to have recent flight experience, which is stated under 6157. You got to have, one item that is oftentimes skipped is 6131. Additional training required for operating a glider, such as the aero tow training, ground launch training. I believe it's 1992. Prior to that, the pilots are exempt, and anybody who earned their certificate prior to 1992 is exempt of that requirement. But after 1992, there has to be an endorsement in the logbook that states that you have received the training. And I think, back to your question, I think the biggest deficiency that I've noted is in record keeping. Record keeping is really important because it demonstrates what your privileges are and that you are qualified as a pilot. An endorsement alone is not enough. An endorsement needs to be backed up by actual training. It needs to be backed up by logged flight training and logged ground training. So, for example, if anytime you receive a flight review, it's simply not enough that there's an endorsement in your logbook. The flight review has to consist out of flight training and ground training, and it has to be listed in the logbook. And then I, as an instructor, for example, if I were to sign you off on a club aircraft, or if I were to reissue a new flight review, I always go back and verify that you have the proper documentation. Now, you're not required to log all of your flight time. However, you are required to log, at least recent flight experience, and of course the flight review, and additional training under 6131, whatever the case may be. So there has to be a minimum in the book, and again, it consists out of flight training and ground training. So that is really important, that all of those components are logged. Did that answer your question?
Yes, that's pretty good, Eric, especially that the logbook requirements, and also, someone may have received a flight review endorsement a couple of years ago, and maybe they're coming up for a new one, but they may not have track of their logbook right now, or it may be somewhere between the clubhouse and the glider trailer and their back office. So it probably behooves everyone that's getting a flight review to be able to know where it is in their logbook, and or take a picture of it, and then you just got a copy of it on your phone or saving it to your email or something like that. And that way, if you are, someone asks if you've had a flight review, then it would be easy to kind of show them, hey, here's the logbook, I did this, and here's the flights that I took and the ground instruction I got for my flight review.
Correct. Go ahead.
Yeah, and then I think one of them that I think I talked to you before on the phone was the case where you want to have people flying together and developing currency and knocking the rust off. But one of the things is that the two-place gliders, whether they're evergreen or you're flying with the DG-1000 or whatever, they only require one pilot. So because of that, if you are flying with another certificated pilot and neither one of you has 3 takeoffs and landings in the past 90 days or whatever more strict club requirements you may have, then you can't, as a glider pilot who has less than 3 takeoffs and landings in the previous 90 days, you cannot take passengers. And even though it wouldn't seem like the pilot that you're flying with is actually a passenger, because the glider only requires one pilot. Therefore, some pilot is the pilot in command and the other pilot is merely a passenger. Even though we like to think of them as crew, they're really just a passenger on that flight. So getting that currency and getting those 3 takeoffs and landings in, and that's kind of what I end up doing at the beginning of the season as well, making sure that I have my 3 takeoffs and landings before I ever jump in a glider and give another person a ride. So important things to think about as we go into our flying season and regaining currencies. Or certain things that would be great to be doing with an instructor or knocking the rust off with a mentor. And also making sure that those recency experiences are put into a logbook, even though you may not normally keep a logbook, or maybe there's an electronic logbook that you have on your phone. So you have an ability to get that log. That way, when you get someone asks you about it, or maybe this is a great year for the FAA to do ramp inspections, I'm not sure. If that happens, it's time to go ahead and make sure that you can show the man that shows up that you have the proper endorsements from a flight review or your 3 takeoffs and landings in the previous 90 days. Eric, did you have something else you were going to add on that subject?
Yeah, just to add on what you mentioned here, in order to accomplish the 3 takeoffs and landings, if you're legal, if you have a recent flight review, for example, you can accomplish them on your own or with an instructor, but you cannot accomplish them with another pilot on board who's not an instructor.
That is correct. Even if the other pilot, yeah, exactly. You're correct.
And what else? And I think it's best if there's change of flight controls does not mean change of pilot in command. Would you agree with that?
Correct.
Exchanging flight controls does not mean you're giving the command to the aircraft. Because that's a gray area, but I recommend that there's only one pilot in command throughout the entire flight operation, from launch all the way to landing and full stop.
Eric, I think that's a great segue into going and flying with other people in a 2-place glider, as well as being the pilot in command for tow operations. And like you said, it's a team building effort, and there's a large level of trust that is had between all of the various participants. Let me call up my video here since I'm actually speaking. So there's a large level of trust between the people who are helping you on the line, and there's the tow pilot, and then there's the line that you're responsible for as well, with being the pilot in command of the glider, and then also passenger briefing. And when I'm flying as a pilot in command, I'm very clear with the people I'm flying with that, hey, I'm the pilot in command today. We'll share some flying along the way, but I'm going to do the takeoff, I'm going to do the landing, or I'll, whatever I'm going to tell them I'm doing that day. And that way they know clearly who's in charge and paying the bill and all that other jazz too. So good discussion on the responsibilities, and we want everyone to be as current and safe as they can, so that when we go to a dust up or whatever, that we've got some flying under our belt and we've been doing it the right way. We do not want to see folks that are a tow plane pilot that doesn't have his the medical set up correctly, or folks that are flying and they don't have their flight review and things like that, or the 3 takeoffs and landings in 90 days. So other things you want to cover on there, Eric?
Does anybody have any questions or comments?
I think Brad Pattison had one. I saw him raising his hand earlier.
Hey, Eric, thanks a lot for doing this. Just a real quick question. There's been discussion about getting involved maybe with winches a little bit more over the next year or two, or if you go somewhere else and fly on a winch. with the aerotow operation, it seems pretty clear that the PIC of the glider is fully responsible for the glider and the tow rope, et cetera. But also the tow plane pilot has a whole set of responsibilities that you've already kind of mentioned briefly. How does it work with the winch? The winch operator, there's no certification requirements, training requirements, or anything else. Where do they fit into this, or do they? And is it the pilot in command of the glider that's in charge of the winch? I mean, winching is popular. It's probably the most popular way to launch gliders worldwide, not around here. But do you know anything about that?
Well, there's no regulatory requirement for that, and that exactly is the problem that I addressed earlier. That there are many participants here. There are many participants in this kind of operation where it's all based on trust. So safety is based on trust, but it's up to the pilot command to determine that, to observe, and to make sure that everybody here is on the same page. So, it's a tough call.
So basically, the PIC has to make a judgment, knowing that the guy operating the winch, the equipment of the winch, et cetera, is all unlikely to cause an accident or a problem. So
correct. And then, ultimately he's the pilot's command of the aircraft, of the glider being launched. Exactly, that's the problem that I'm trying to address here. It's sometimes hard to oversee all aspects of an operation. And that's why having briefings is really important. And then, if there's a safety concern that needs to be addressed, if there's an issue that needs to be addressed, in order to ensure safe operation. But there's no regulatory requirement on that. The wing runner, for example, or the field manager, all of these guys and disassembly crew, assembly crew, the winch operator, none of those have certificates, and none of those need to meet specific requirements. So it's on the pilot in command to determine that it's a safe operation, that the operation is being conducted in a safe manner, and that all requirements are met to ensure flight safety.
yeah, thank you.
So Eric, this is Jim. Thanks so much for the talk. The other thing that I wanted to point out is beyond just the safety regs and everything that's in there, there's also a financial incentive if saving your own skin isn't enough. And what I would recommend is everybody go back and review your insurance policy and see if there's a stipulation in there that requires that you have some level of currency or flight check within a certain amount of time, because it might actually be beyond just having a BFR that you got a year and a half or 2 years ago to go and launch. And in some cases, you might not be covered, even though you're legally covered with a BFR, but you haven't flown for a year and a half. And that's something else to look out for.
I have a question. I'm not sure if you see my hands up. Here is
Go ahead, Rita.
Hi,
Go ahead,
here is
Rita.
Rita, and I do have a question to Eric on the currency of the 90 days proficiency or currency test to be able to take a passenger. And is that true if I fly another glider and have 3 takeoffs in the preceding 90 days, then I will be okay to take up somebody in another type of glider?
What does everybody else think? I'm just curious.
As long as it's a glider.
I believe the rules
It's
are
category
just
and class.
So I think
Yeah, exactly. It's
Yeah.
category, class, and type.
right.
So yes, yeah, you can.
Yeah, well, it's not
Not-
type unless it requires type rating.
Correct, but general category class. So it's in a glider. It's not make and model specific.
Mhm. Yes. And then the other one, like let's say flying the DG-1000 and taking 3 solo flights and then be able to take somebody up as a passenger. Would that be
In
true?
gliders, in any glider, doesn't have
Any
to be
glider.
So then basically based on the same rule, that would be okay too.
Yes, that's correct, because it's a glider category, and that will cover all glider make and models.
Yes, and I know that it's not really advisable and not the best way of doing it. I just wanted to check the minimum.
And that's exactly, that's a pilot and command decision right there.
Yes, and then like you mentioned that if going with anybody, it would have to be an instructor. So it can be that another DG-1000 member already have 3 flights and I can only get proficients and have that 3 flights and log it to make myself proficient to take a passenger. If I go up with an instructor, not just with another member who can take me up, I still will not be able to take somebody up only if I've done the flight with either solo or with an instructor.
Correct, either solo or with instructor, because you have to meet the requirement first prior to be able to take a passenger with you. So it can only be solo or with another instructor.
Thank you so much.
I would like to point out that there are two things here. There's the regulatory requirement, and that's the 3 solo flights prior to taking up a passenger. And the other is the social requirement, depending on what your situation is. A club may have its own requirements. The DG-1000 group may have their own requirements. And those also have to be met. So be aware of all those. I'm not sure it got covered, but I picked up somebody thinking that a towed operation is, there are 2 pilots in command in a towed operation. The tow pilot is the pilot in command of the tow plane, and the glider pilot is the pilot in command of the glider. And they can both be, I believe, on their we SGC don't have a requirement on this, but they can both be on their first flight of the year taking up flying. Now, it's not the best thing. For example, I will do 3 takeoffs and landings in the tow plane just to get the rust off from not flying it for 8 months before I even start flying it. And there's typically 1 or 2 test flights when I'm scheduling a tow plane. Anyway, just be aware that and clubs can put additional requirements on people using their equipment, or you can put your own requirements on yourself. Okay, I'm done.
I see Brad's got his hand up again too. Is it still up, Brad, or?
Actually, Eric, here's a twist on this. Let's say you have somebody who's current, they're a mentor pilot, and you're not current, and you hop in the glider with them, and you do 3 flights with them. You're legal from the standpoint of there's legal pilot in command, but there's that part of the regulation that says if you're rated and you're the manipulator of the controls, then you get to log PIC time. It doesn't say you have to be current. So if you go up with a mentor, and you do 3 flights with a mentor, can you gain currency that way? And I guess the way I look at it is, I guess you can.
Well, no, in order to be PIC, you have to be current.
Well, no, there's a funny twist in the regs about that. If you're rated and you're the manipulator of the controls, then you get to log PIC time. So I'm not sure about that. I mean, you may be
Yeah.
right.
Your logic is correct. Just the FAA doesn't necessarily see it that way.
Yeah, but that's the regulations.
Yes, I heard that before, and that's why I wanted to ask about that, because I think it has been circulated around, and usually DG-1000 group pilots do knock off the rust with an instructor, so it's usually not an issue or not a big question, but sometimes then running out of good weather or time and scheduling problems, I did hear that before, but it's good to know that it's still not really gives the currency for taking another passenger.
In order to act as a pilot in command, you have to meet the requirements. You have to meet the currency requirements. So if you add those controls and you don't meet the currency requirements, you cannot act as a pilot in command. And then in addition to that, that mentor instructor, he's not an authorized instructor. I mean, he's not an instructor. He's not a certificated flight instructor. Therefore, you know, I just keep it simple. I ask
Yeah,
myself.
no, yeah, it makes most sense for it to be an instructor. And of course, if you have a legal biennial flight review, you can go solo. This is just carrying passengers to be the PIC.
Yeah, meet
Sure.
all the requirements first, and then be able to act as pilot in command.
I do have another question that is in this area. If somebody flies with an instructor, is that true that both of them can log the flight as pilot in command?
Well, that depends. Is the instructor giving flight instruction?
Oh, not necessarily, just flying together and sharing the time, like half an hour, one person is
No,
at the control.
No, if I do that, I don't log PIC because I'm not giving required instruction. So at that point, even though I'm a holder of a flight instructor certificate, I don't log the flight time as PIC because I'm not giving required training.
Mm-hmm. I see.
Yeah, one of
So-
them has to log it as dual instruction given.
Exactly. Only if I as instructor give actual flight instruction, I'm giving dual flight, or the student or whoever is receiving dual flight instruction. That is loggable time for me as instructor. But if I'm just there for the ride and no training requirements are being met, then no, I'm a passenger. And because I'm a passenger, I need to make sure that the pilot who's flying with me is current and legal.
Yes, thank you.
So Eric, this is Phil. Are you like in between flights? Are you do you just sleep at the airport? What are you doing?
It depends.
So did you have to adjust your reporting schedule to do this? So you had to get there early enough to get this thing set up and jump online with us?
No, it worked out well. I was able to fit it in between flights.
Oh, all right. So where did you come in from? Where are you going to next?
Heading back to Denver.
Is that the last leg?
Yep.
Right on. So you're going to come back and maybe do some more flying here in Seattle?
Yes.
Awesome. Well, gosh, you know, I do want to thank you for all the flight instruction you've been given. I talked to Eric just the other day, and he had we were talking about flight instruction and getting people recurrent, and he actually told me he'd flown 10 student sorties, 10 student flights that day, five with two different people that are getting their I believe it was add-on rating for instruction. So that's pretty incredible, that level of dedication. And it was a day when the rains were coming in shortly after he got done flying. So they really made something happen on those dates. Around the room, Eric, do you want to? Do you have anything else that you want to present? Things on that subject, or you want to hand over the host to me again?
Yeah, you can go ahead. Appreciate your help, and yeah, if there are no questions, then I can hand the presentation off to you again.
Yeah, that's great. Just to get everybody thinking along the lines of what they want to do to get their aircraft out of storage and flying again. I'm thinking you're going to click on it, and
Okay, it's back to you now.
okay. You stopped screen sharing, which is good. And then I think you have to go over by my name under the participants where it says more, and you click on it, and then you can say you can make me the host. If you click on it's over by my camera and by my name. Oh, it says I'm the host now. Awesome. Eric, thanks so much for coming on board and giving a presentation for that tonight, and the discussions. I kind of like the way Eric does his discussion models too. It's a little bit like he has good information, and then he asks the student may ask a question, and then sometimes he may even say, "So, what do you think?" as you know, the question asker, and because there's a lot of nuance to some of the questions and how he's going to be able to answer, because you know it's a lot of the I think one of the key instructor responses for any question is they always say it depends. So let's
Thanks,
move
Eric.
on with thank you so much,
Yeah,
Eric,
thank you
for
very much.
coming on board. That was awesome, and you're a great resource for the Soaring community, and I hope that you don't get too busy airline flying and too busy teaching gliders or neglecting the family. It seems like when you're doing three things, it's a three-legged stool. You have the family, you have the airline, and you have the glider teaching, and you can only make two of those happy at one time. The other one gets a little upset. So let's see. I got next on tap. We were talking about our McCready discussion and Noel Wade. I think he is on board.
No, I just talked to him. I just talked to him, and he said his weekend got hijacked by work and home stuff. So he's busy tonight, so he wasn't going to do it. But he was reminded about it, and he plans to rejoin next month and try it next month.
Well, that was exactly the three-legged stool we were just talking about.
That's why I interrupted. I was calling him and to check and see, because I didn't see him on the list, so I called him and talked to him. Anyway,
that's okay though, because that discussion, I think, is it's something that can pay off for contest flying or just doing your final glide. So your description was really good, and then at the same time, Noel, he's been doing some work with the cross country online with Condor, and having some very, very good sessions with folks online. And this the Zoom meeting thing may be a little bit of a godsend in some ways, where we can have more folks get together and be able to pick the brain of really talented people and get some information from them. So it's been rewarding for me to see other people getting engaged with and asking people questions online. And there's really nothing anyone has a Zoom capability. And I know that we're kind of just getting back up to speed and we're doing the meetings, but that doesn't really preclude anyone that wanted to do a Zoom meeting for logging on with your Zoom login ID. It's free. and then signing up for the account, and then just getting 2 or 3 folks together and talking about one particular aspect of glider flying or whatever. And then you could even invite others if it works out well. So that would be a fun way to do things. Or you can just call and check up on somebody you haven't seen or heard from in a while. And that's kind of nice to do during the pandemic as well. I've been trying to catch up with some guys I've been flying with over the years, and it's been fun to at least chat with them, even if I haven't been able to see them in the past couple of years. Looking at the, we'll put Noel on hold, and we'll bring it up for some general membership topics or questions and answers. I'll also bring up one more bonus question on a slide here in a minute. I think probably top of mind on the Towline was some of the events, and as discussions have happened at the board meeting, we're not exactly sure the scope of the events with relating to using the clubhouse at this time, but we're learning more as time goes by, and it looks like folks have got their vaccine coming up on schedule, which is really nice. I'm going to get scheduled for it as soon as I can, and we'll see if I can maybe get it under one of those essential personnel. I won't be in the over 65 category yet, but I'll just toss it out there to general membership questions. If you want to raise your hand or stick on the screen or raise your hand if we have that, or comments for the peanut gallery here, or just open it up for questions right now.
So Phil, this is Jim. Can you briefly talk about what was discussed during the board meeting with regards to currency and looking at use of the DG1000 and basically what the ideas that we had on the board? And, it's one thing to go out and say, hey, yeah, you really need to go get current and be proficient before you step into a glider if you haven't flown for the past year and a half. But it's another thing to actually have some sort of equipment that's available and people that you can go fly with. So can you talk to that a little bit?
Yes, what we discussed at the board was at the board meeting was a way to make sure that our aircraft get on a flight status for their insurance, and that we have the annuals completed, and that the glider is ready to go and ready to fly for the normal DG1000 syndicate. However, due to the the past year being a point where we don't have much flying, and we really want to mitigate our risks this coming year by getting as many people a chance to go fly as possible prior to hooking up behind the tow plane at dust up. So ideally, we want to get people flying in some type of two-place glider like you talked about in the Towline, and the options for it, flying with a local club or going to some place far away like Williams, or what we decided to do is to help the backlog of two-place gliders and instructors. We've got a list of instructors that are authorized to fly in the DG1000, and normally they're used to help get the checkouts for the new syndicate members each year. And the DG1000 typically has like 12 or 13 syndicate members. And after they get their checkout, then they usually have days assigned with the glider, and it goes on a rotating basis throughout the year. What we have done this year is that we've kind of expanded our instructor list, as well as added to some of the mentor lists that have been routinely flying the DG1000, to make sure that there's a good number of people that can be called. And if the DG1000 is available, then other SGC members who want to go out and fly and knock off the rust, they're welcome to come out and fly the DG1000. Helping pay for the tow and or the CFIG's fees, or a beer after flying, or whatever the case may be. So we want people to go out and fly. We don't want them to be afraid to go up with an instructor. We want them to just go out and knock off the rust and have fun flying. And if that ship's assembled out there at Arlington and we can get it flying 10 or 15 flights in a day with instructors and mentors, and that tow plane out there just giving us lots of tows, that's going to be a good way for everyone to see each other again and get some takeoffs and landings in. And that way, when you do go back to your own single place glider and you're going to hook up at dust up, that you'll feel confident that you're ready to go, and the tow plane pilots are going to feel confident that we've provided this opportunity for people to get their time in it and get. It's not a checkout; it's just really just let's go fly and see how everybody's got their takeoff and landing practice going again. And I need the same kind of practice myself. So I do see one. And I'll get to scheduling in that in just a moment. Brad does have his hand up. Go ahead, Brad.
Just real quick. So the DG 1000 is ready to go. It's at Arlington, but it's going in for an annual at some point, I guess. That's one, maybe you can comment on that. And the other is, so people that are not members of Evergreen, if they want to come up and fly the DG 1000, then how would we do that in terms of arranging a tow pilot and instructor?
The scheduling of it in the beginning of the year, it typically runs where we make sure the ship's on insurance and it's open for checkouts. And the priority is going to be for folks who are actually signing up to be a DG 1000 member to get their checkout. However, I see lots of other opportunities day in and day out for when one DG member gets checked out, that there's an instructor there, and someone else that's an SGC member that wants to go fly, they can go fly with that instructor. Charlie was working on an idea for doing the sign up genius for tow plane pilots for the SGC. And I'll let Charlie talk on that, the possibility for the DG 1000 in just a moment. But the DG 1000 typically has a scheduling calendar in Google, and the pilots just have their name assigned to it. But even if a pilot later on in the season, even going into dust up, if they have their name assigned to the glider, it doesn't mean that someone can't come out and use the glider in the morning and get their flight review done, et cetera. So, Charlie, do you have any other info that you had on that as far as maybe possibly helping out with Sign Up Genius on the tow plane pilots, and then how that might correlate with the DG 1000?
Not so much. So the Sign Up Genius is on our website, but I don't think I started until April. So I think if you're not an Evergreen member, I'm not sure how to do it right now, and I haven't set up a Sign Up Genius for the DG 1000 because I'm not familiar with how they did it before.
Okay, so what I will say, just for going forward from this point in time, and I've had a few people contact me as well, and I plan on being a DG 1000 member this year too. Just contact me for now as we get this initially set up, and I think Tori is one of our guys that helps get the DG 1000 calendar set up and starts running the number after we know how many members are in it, what their names are. And then just contact me for now, because I'm trying to pair people who want to go fly with a CFI with the CFI so that they can get not just, one CFI handles one student in a day, but hopefully I can line up 2 or 3 other people at the same time. So I'll type my name and my contact number in here. You should have that off the website as well. And any instruction that's getting ready to take place, I'm going to put that out on both the KWO and the SGC news as well, so that other people will know that, hey, something is about to happen, and they could possibly show up at the glider port and get some flying in as well. So that'll be an initial hack for right now, until we come up with maybe a little bit better way to do it on a Sign Up Genius for just these special flights. Because remember, we've got 2 things going on. One is the checkouts for DG 1000 members, and the other one would be separate flights for SGC members to go knock off the rust.
Yeah, I suspect we could probably set up a Sign Up Genius and attach it to the website. when we talk about the board meeting next week.
Okay. Awesome. And like Brad said, it does have the annual coming up, but I've talked to Chris and he is got the annual scheduled, and my idea would be to fly it either around that annual, because Chris doesn't think the annual is going to take that long, or the weather may not even be conducive to flying it until the annual happens on March the 8th. And that, at which point, he said the annual is not going to take very long. It's scheduled, and it would be ready to fly after that point too. So some considerations there for the annual, but don't worry about the annual. Just do what you can to try to get out and fly, because we're going to have a lot of folks that need to go fly before the dust up happens. And
Thanks,
Brad had
Noel.
one other question.
Oh, I was just going to ask, does the DG-1000 always get put away at the end of each day? Or do you guys have wing covers and things like that? Or I guess there's a concern.
Well, yeah, that's a good question. We do have wing covers, and that's primarily used at Afreda, but just plan on with the DG-1000, again, contacting me to coordinate the scheduling of that with either an instructor, or you're looking for an instructor or a mentor. And then we'll have to have a little bit of a meeting of the minds to show up, get the ship assembled, and then fly it. And then if it looks like it's going to be used tomorrow, the next day, then we can tie it down on the flight line, and we can use it the next morning. But the goal is that if it's not going to be used the next day, and we haven't coordinated that with someone, then we put it back in the box at Arlington. And at Afreda, we what's that?
Is there a self-rigging for that, or a single point rigging?
There is a single man rigger, but it's not very easy to do, in my personal opinion, especially if a little bit of wind kicks up. So I would highly recommend that you have someone help you when you're assembling DG-1000. You know, some guys that are big guys and used to assembling gliders all the time, it's no big deal to them. But it's a little bit of a beast to put together. Rita had something. Go ahead, Rita.
Yes, I wanted to mention that usually we don't use the covers in Arlington because they tend to get into the storage boxes wet, and then they mold, and then they are trash in a year or two. So just like how Phil mentioned, that if a good stretch of weather and people are flying it, then leave it out without the covers. And other times, if there are 2, 3, 4 days of rain coming or nobody's flying, then the person needs to look who is scheduled, ask, are you coming out? If not, then it needs to be put away. And most likely it stays out. 1 year we did that and it was okay. But I don't know how it's going to be exactly this year, but probably just like how Phil mentioned that. And the other part, what was the other question or the other thing? Oops, I can't remember now.
Well, what I'm hoping for also is that if we have someone that has some space in their hangar, and I talked with Charlie about this, and we may be looking for someone that has some space in their hangar that could help us out with. I mean, we're doing what we can to get a 2-place glider available to help people get current again with and we're calling it our COVID recurrency event. And if there's a way I could take off the 20-meter tips and roll it into someone's hangar day in and day out for a month or two, I'd be willing to help investigate that or help compensate a hangar owner if they've got empty space. That would be really nice to have.
And the other thing was about the covers. If we could put it and hang it somewhere where it would have the chance to dry out instead of being wet, put it in a box, and then even just moist, not soaking wet, but it doesn't have the chance to dry out. So if anybody would have a place to hang it up some way to dry it, that's another option.
I have a balcony in my hangar. You can hang it out there, no problem at all. I'm out there all the time.
Oh, that would be great, because then we could actually use the cover, and then when it's being taken off the glider, just hang it up there and then let it dry out, and then hopefully it would preserve the covers for long enough to make it worthwhile. Otherwise, with the self-rigging, yeah, it has a self-rigging system, and it was all the parts were fixed up really nicely, but it's still little thing can go wrong and not working properly, and we are all, I mean, it's not like anybody's ship everybody's familiar with how to set it up, the little kinks and tricks. So it is just better to have some help to be able to assemble or to take it apart. It's always a good idea, like Phil said, and few people did it alone, and I wouldn't try it without helping hands, even if they are not pilots who know how to put it together, but to secure so something doesn't fall off or blows over, or something slides the wrong way on that one-man rigging and tips over. So it's not as easy to catch it as a smaller glider. And that was the other thing that I wanted to mention. Thank you.
Okay, Jim, you have one other thing there too?
Yeah, I was wondering, so we've got a few things that are planned, and I think, are we still planning on bringing the tow plane 7-8 Papa over to Arlington?
Yeah, so I'm not sure. I'm shutting my business down, so I'm debating that for a variety of reasons. I'm thinking we probably should just rely on Evergreen's tow planes.
Okay, and you know, Saturday was actually really nice. It was soarable, and I think that Bruce Birkett was out there towing for Evergreen, and there were only 2 glider pilots out. But I think you could have stayed up most of the day. So you know, we are starting to get those days that it's flyable.
Right. Yeah, both of Evergreen's tow planes are up. So
Okay.
yeah, I'm a little worried about my insurance actually. So we can talk about that at the board meeting as far as bringing the other tow plane over. I'm thinking I'm probably going to send someone over to test flight instead. Is kind of what I'm thinking right now.
Sounds good. Thanks.
I think we had Mark Stanfield coming at us from Hood River.
Hey guys, they change the subject. I was reading the Towline, and it had said that you're looking for volunteers to help with the Region 8. What kind of things are you looking for people, just so I can put a note out to the organization down here at Hood River Soaring for help?
Well,
Okay, I'm sorry, go ahead.
typically we're looking for people to help with the launches, people to help with the, that's the real critical part. 2 or 3 people to help with the launches, a couple people to shag ropes. 3's nice because then you don't have to do every one of them. Another person out in front of the tow plane, telling the tow plane, helping get the tow plane going rather than signaling the tow plane. That's mostly it. We are looking for a competition director, as far as I know, competition director, scorer. What we do past that, I don't know. Noel has some other thoughts, but he is the contest manager. So best thing is to send him a note and say, hey, what do you need?
Okay. I know I probably have a couple youth students that will probably want to come out and just run the wings and stuff.
Sure.
That'd be fantastic.
Yep.
And just as an aside, if there's a way we can get folks like that a ride at during the Region 8, that would be fantastic.
Well, with that being said, what is the best way? I know a couple of people are interested coming up and trying to get some type of, mentee flight at the dust up. Is there an avenue for signups or something?
You just dialed into it. So that's just contact me, and
Okay.
we will work with division of labor to make sure that if they're ready for a mentor flight, that we can work on hooking them up over the dust up, just like you were, man.
That's right. Sweet. Thanks. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Keep up the good work, guys.
So Mike, you still got more stuff? You still got your hand up, or is it?
Yeah, I wanted to move on a little bit, but questions are good. So please ask and keep asking. As far as the mentor stuff, again, anything from glider equipment to anything, if you've got a question that you want somebody to ask, I'm not the only one who does this. I can ask other people to join this, and it's nothing specific. It doesn't have to be competition. It doesn't have to be. It could be questions about badge flying and why do we still want to do that, or do we want to do that? We got experts in, like we said, we have experts in Condor. But send me a question. Send me something that I can forward to somebody. Send me an input so we can answer these. That's all I'm asking. Same thing with Towline. Jim wrote part of it, but he should be an editor. That job, that the person putting together Towline should be taking inputs from other people. So if you've got a story, you've got a event, you've got something to bring up that you want published, write it up and send it in. We need those inputs. I think that's it. Thanks. Bye.
Yeah, it's funny how an editor's work is never done because they're always looking for input. So speaking of that, looking for input, as we get ready to wind it down, did anybody have an answer for what that was, as far as what type of cloud that was?
Can you put it up again?
Yeah, okay, I'm going to share screen and put it up. Hang on a second.
Hey, while you're doing that, Phil, I'll just say a couple of quick things about Medow. Can you hear me?
You're good. Go ahead.
Okay. A couple people have emailed me just asking about what's going on with Medow. And I'll get together with Charlie this week. I've been out of town. But I'd like to get something out this week that'll kind of detail when we'll start the signups, and that always involves SGC, using their website for signing up and paying the entry fees or whatever. It's not really entry fee, but we'll have to figure out what the fee structure is going to be, and probably be the same as last year and the year before. But hopefully I'll get that out this week, and the sign up will probably start somewhere in mid-March at a certain time. Be 16 gliders that require tows is kind of what we're looking at, 2 tow planes. And 3 of those spots will probably be taken, and that'll be the 2-seat gliders, one from PSSA and then the DG-1000, because we just want to make sure that we have spots for the 2-seaters. And the 3rd spot taken, that'll probably be me, because I'm going to be there working. So that leaves 13 spots, plus the self-launching gliders. Just so everybody knows, we'll have something out pretty soon on that, I hope.
Sounds good. I see Chris clicks his hand up right now, so we better get to him.
Yeah, I just want to go back on the DG-1000 covers for a minute. I think if we do use the covers in Arlington, that we don't use them more than a couple of days. I would say that at the end of each weekend, that at least get put back in the trailer and not get left out, for several days and with covers on.
Yeah, there's the funny thing is I've never heard more discussion about a set of covers than a DG1000 and then going to Arlington. But what I will say after all the discussion on the covers is that that even though that the covers can be an issue, is that the way I mentioned the DG1000 getting used was, and this is just for everyone's clarification, is that you're going to coordinate with an instructor or a mentor. You're going to show up, you're going to have a little bit of a work party and get that thing put together. You're going to fly it all day long. And then you're going to make a decision at the end of the day, is that thing going to get flown tomorrow in the morning or in the afternoon? And if the answer is yes, then you can leave it on the flight line and you don't put the covers on. Next thing is, if the answer is going to be no, then you put it back in the box. So the covers, to me, when I'm flying at Arlington, they're never really part of the equation. If, for instance, they did get used, and that's when I would want to go with Charlie's plan of hanging those things up. But the pajamas are more for use over at Freda.
Yeah,
Does that make
I
sense?
agree. Yeah, I don't really think we should use them on the west side just because it's too moist.
Exactly, and I don't think with this the current group of DG1000 folks that they're really keyed in on putting the covers on them every day. Anyway, I think there shouldn't be much confusion on that, and I think that there'll be enough of folks that have done it enough where we're not going to be confused and storing the. We just had a couple incidences where the covers were left and they were wet and they were put away in a box and no one thought about them for a while and they get mildew. So that's the big problem with that. And I don't think that's going to be an issue, but we're guarding against it just by talking about it, which is good.
Yeah. The other thing is, I haven't looked at the weather this weekend yet, but I may get to the 1000 early and get it done before this weekend. If I do get on it right away, just want to make people aware that it might be at my shop if they're planning the flight this week. You might want to communicate with me about that.
That's great. And then what I'm trying to get everybody is to focus their communications going through me. And then Chris, what I would like for you to do, if you can, like you said, we talked about on the phone, if you can get it in early, I think that'll work out great. And then it's less work for you. And there's not been a mad rush, even though Jim brought up that the other day was flyable. There hasn't been a mad rush for people lining up instructors and then getting the ship on the schedule. So and of course we're getting to that point where it needs to go into the annual as well. So my guess is gut feeling wise, based on just flying the next few days, if you can get that in a few days early instead of March the 8th, we'll put the notice out and just say, hey, it's going into annual. If you had plans of flying, put them on hold for a few days until Chris gets done with the annual. And
Yeah,
thanks so much for working on the annual.
I'll know better tomorrow. The RV8 I'm working on is going to be finished up tomorrow. And then I've got Kara Richards coming up from Portland area. He's going to be arriving tomorrow afternoon, and I can talk to him. I don't think he's as in that big a rush to get done, so I can probably swap places with him and do the DG1000 first.
Yeah, that'd be nice. We appreciate it, man.
Chris?
Yeah.
Heinz, go ahead.
This is Heinz. Will you pick up the trailer from the airfield, or you want us to bring it over to you?
No, it's easy for me to just go over and get.
Thank you,
I can
thank you.
Also take it back, yeah.
Thank you.
Is
You're a
that spot
jewel.
open now, or?
Say that again.
I know somebody else had their trailer in our spot. Is that open now, or?
Yeah, Brad was going to fix that up as soon as we have the trailer over at your place.
Okay. Sounds good.
Great. And then I think Rita had one more question.
Yes, I wanted to ask Charlie and Brad, because there was a sign up on Sign Up Genius for Twist earlier. I can't remember, 2-3 months ago. So that's now canceled and it's meta and need to sign up with Brad sign up when it comes, or is there still any connection?
No, the twist operation is still going, but it's only be one tow plane. So it's going to be 7 or 8 guys over there. And we're talking about merging the 2 operations, but they might stay separate. We're not sure right now.
Yes.
Yeah, I think Charlie, you sort of have the roster for the people that are going to be at TWISP, don't you, at this point?
Yeah, they're still in the sign up thing. So, and there was like 13 or 14 signed up for that, but that have to be pared down, and most of them will have to go to Methal, or half of them have to go to Methal.
Yeah. So those that are signed up for TWISP that will end up going to Methal will have to enter the process just like everybody else at Methal. First come, first serve when the sign up starts.
Yeah. So to answer your question, Rhea, that Sign Up Genius was a member initiated operation, had nothing to do with anything.
Yeah. So Charlie and I will try to figure this out this week and let everybody know.
Thank you. Oh, and I wanted to mention that if we run out of questions, we plan not to present financials tonight, but I could do the SGC Soaring foundations in a few minutes just to get it done in case if we have time and not too many other questions. So just let me know.
Rita, I think my gut feeling would be that if we do them both together at the next meeting, that's great that you're ready though. But I think we do them both the next meeting, that would be more aligned with doing the financials at that time.
Yes, and that's what we switched into. So then just we can stick with that. I was just thinking of it once Noel's presentation was not going to be presented. I figured maybe fit it in, but yep, that's fine.
I think we're at an hour and a half here. I'm going to call up that picture one more time, and let's see if I can share my screen and make this thing happen again. Screen, and I see the. So it was Name That Cloud. Does anybody have a name for it?
Contrail.
It is not a contrail.
It's called a horseshoe vortex cloud.
Bingo.
There's a
What
picture
forms
of it in the chat. There's a picture explaining it in the chat.
Okay, and I didn't see the chat. I've been too busy moving the cursor around. What's the explanation in the chat? Can you read that? I don't have it called up.
Yeah, just a second. Yeah, so it says a rare meteorological phenomenon, a horizontal vortex, spinning column of air, and a strong mountain wave to form a cumulus cloud leading to a horseshoe vortex cloud.
Okay. More mysteries. It's always interesting to see different types of clouds. I can't say for sure what wave conditions existed during that day when I took that picture of that horseshoe vortex cloud. But wave really wasn't much in the picture. So when I hear the word wave, I'm a little hesitant to agree that it was, part of a wave. But it could have had some wave undulations of the atmosphere above the cumulus clouds that I was flying on. But it was on a particular soaring day when there was a massive convergence and just incredibly strong lift along this cloud street. And off to the side of that cloud street, I saw the seldom seen, rarely used horseshoe vortex cloud. Rita has her hand up. Go ahead.
Yes, I wanted to mention, I did see this type of cloud once and took a picture. And then I think on the SGC group, we did have a little discussion and I just couldn't remember the name of it. But yeah, it is really rare. In like 30 years, I only seen it once, but it can be found in Ephrata, and there was no wave, or it was just a thermal day, really not really a wave day. Nobody reported wave, just cumuluses. But yeah, it was very interesting. And yeah, it was horseshoe shaped and showed the little spiral, very similar to your picture. So it does exist in
Cool.
Ephrata too.
Cool.
If anybody's interested in clouds, 2 years ago in Minden, the dinner meeting after the Wave Camp featured the founder of the Cloud Appreciation Society. And I don't remember what his name is, but he's from England. And he was in the States visiting and gave an absolutely amazing talk, about an hour and a half long. Tim Hennigan and I, we thought, well, why do you want to stick around to see a bunch of clouds? Within 10 minutes, we were standing in the back of the room, just spellbound, like everybody was. And they have thousands of members. And I just threw up the membership application thing there, but you can join it, and then you get a cloud of the day or something like that. And it tells you how the clouds are formed. And God, they have like, I don't know, 100 different types of clouds. And people send in photos of really interesting looking clouds, but it's actually very cool if anybody's interested. And it's all about the clouds, right?
That is really cool. Unless it's blue, and then it's another ball game. All right, and I think this is the last question that we'll do. Let's see if I can make this happen before. This is the super bonus question. What type of quantity indicator is this gauge?
Oxygen.
Well, oxygen's not bad, but the gauge has got a color coding on it, and towards the E is the green area.
It's a lab gauge.
The lab gauge.
Yeah, laboratory.
Okay.
Oh, good one.
Yeah, right? Because if it's full, that's bad, right?
That's a good one, yeah.
Actually, Charlie is absolutely correct. But I would also consider this to be my 2020 gauge. And it measures waste and how much, as it gets full, it gets to the red line. And so that was, Charlie really nailed that. That was a great one, Charlie. So
we don't have that in the freighter, by the way.
It's a fun meter.
It's a fun meter. So empty and then maximum fun. I like that too. That's good. Okay. So at this point, unless anybody's got any other things, I really want to thank everyone for attending the meeting. Gosh, we saved the drive. We didn't get to see each other and have a beer in the bar, which is kind of a sad thing that hopefully we can rectify that as the season goes on. But I really want to thank each and every person for showing up, and some folks from Idaho and further on. So gosh, can't wait to get over and see those guys again. I can't wait for them to come over and fly with us. Anybody have anything else you want to talk about before we get ready to at least end the meeting? And then guys want to have sidebars with their counselor or their judge after that, they're welcome to have that. Okay, I don't see anything. Mike, you still there? You still in control of the actual meeting as far as it goes, as far as signing it off, or?
Nope, you are.
Okay, so I'm going to put myself on pause, and I'm going to go grab a beer. And if guys want to keep talking, that's great. I'll leave the meeting going, and then I'll come back in a few minutes and see if it's still anything going on. And if not, I'll shut it down after that. So feel free to kind of hang out, shoot the breeze, and introduce yourself if you haven't introduced yourself to someone before or whatever. And I'm going to put myself on pause.
All right. Thanks for the end of MC. Good to see everybody.
Hey, does anybody know if we've done any tows yet this year?
Evergreen has.
Yeah, PSSA's tow plane is just gotten all fixed up by Tim Hennigan and others, and I don't think it's flown yet, but it's real close.
Okay, well, that's good. All right, signing off. Have a good one.
Yeah, good night, everybody.
I'm having a glass of wine.
I just finished mine.
Heinz, I wanted to ask, what is the deadline for returning DG 1000 members to send or deposit the check for this season?
I believe Heinz has already left the building.
Oh, I still see him alive here.
I'm still here. I just don't have a video.
Oh,
I
okay.
don't quite understand the question.
Oh,
I
so-
have 3 checks so far, and
Mhm.
I'm waiting for more of them.
Oh, there he is.
Yes, and there was, I didn't read the agreement carefully yet, and that's why I haven't sent or deposited my check yet that I'm planning to do. I just wanted to know, what is the deadline for returning members to send in the check?
2 days ago.
Yesterday?
No, go ahead and send it in, and when I get enough of them, I will go deposit them.
Mhm.
And I don't think we're going to have an issue of kicking somebody out, because I think we have a few people that are willing to give up their spot if we get to 13 or 14.
Yes, and so far not crowded, unfortunately. That would be
Nope.
kind of a happy problem if we would have to hurry to get our spot. Thank you. And yes, thank you to Chris Clicks for moving up the annual a little bit and getting the plane out faster, getting it annual. I see you got more than a beer, Phil.
What was that, Rita? I missed that part.
Looks like you got more than a beer.
Oh no, I have this right here.
No, I mean, you got lean on? Or it is just a coincidence?
I'm on.
Hi, Lynn.
Hi.
I see Nelson on there. Is this Nelson, does his microphone work, or does it one of those things where he's one of those he's stuck in Microsoft hell and he can't get his camcorder working or can't talk on it? I'm just trolling now, you know. I don't.
Microsoft hell is the right word.
And I see Nick Long on there. Is that true? I see Ron Clark. Who is that guy? I've never. I think Ron Clark is the publisher of that March Madness video.
All right, guys, I'm going to take off. See ya.
Thanks, Mike. Have a good night, man.
I'll send out the meeting notice tomorrow for next week for the board meeting.
Okay, I'll send out the agenda for the sample or the draft agenda for tomorrow too.
All right.
Hey, Ron, how's the forecast looking for the rest of the month? Man, he left.
Yeah, well, that's the best question to ask, is that if you and me can tag along with Ron, I think
Right.
our flying will go pretty well.
Yeah. I know he's still there. So I've been having a heck of a time doing my tilt-up panel mod on my 20. And
I saw your pictures. What's the deal?
I think it's, so the piece they sent me, I think it's skewed off about a half of an inch. And it's like touching one side of my cockpit. I mean, it's flyable, but I paid good money for it, so I want it to be centered, in the cockpit. But Rex is working with me. They're probably gonna send me a new piece, I think. Rex I bought it down at what's Rex's place called? Rex
Williams.
Williams. Yeah, I bought it from him. He's a Schleicher dealer, so that was a lot of work.
First of all, Charlie, you're not supposed to be doing any kind of work like that this early in the season or over Christmas or anything.
Right.
You're supposed to wait until like the night prior to dust up.
Right.
And then you
Right.
start, you pull that panel apart and start drilling, putting
Yeah.
holes in there and getting the new stuff put in, because I mean, there's no time pressure if you're not doing that. And then what you got to
Right.
do is that you've got to get it put in, and then you throw the glider in the trailer and you drive over to Freda about 90 miles an hour, and you show up at about 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and everyone's gridding and you're trying to put your glider together, and then you got a bunch of these tubes in the back that you're connecting, and
Right.
and then what you do is you take off and you have no airspeed indicator or no variometer, and that you fly around for a while that day, and then you come back and you land, and it's really hot and you're really PO'd, and then you work on it some more. I mean, so you're doing it way too early, in my opinion. I mean, I've
Right.
never done that, but
Hold on. Well,
I hear Lynn getting ready to do some, he's doing some work with his dogs, I think.
oh. I thought I logged off. I'm trying to figure this damn thing out.
Are you using iPhone or are you using the computer?
iPhone.
Okay. Well, be sure to turn on speakerphone, and we'll tell Carol we got some more gliders for you to buy, because we know you need to collect more gliders.
She could probably hear it the way it is. I was hoping to fly tomorrow. I got to take a look at the weather report for tomorrow and see whether it's worth putting it together. But it's going to be nice and warm this week, I guess, or at least tomorrow.
That sounds good, man. I'd go fly if I were you.
Yeah, well, I'll have to look and see if it's worth it. I still have to put it together. I mean, I might as well just go put it together anyway, but.
Exactly.
Today wasn't looking too bad towards the end of the day. I know there was a pretty good south wind at about 5,000 feet.
Yeah, it looked pretty good. I was working out in my pasture. Got piles of brush to burn. I'm piling everything up right now. But yeah, I'm trying to. I sold my my Sienna, so there's a tow hitch on it. So now I got a new Sienna, and I got to put a tow hitch on it. So I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to get. If I fly tomorrow, I have to push it out to the runway. Because it's too bad we don't have a steerable tail wheel on that thing.
Right.
Looks like it could be good, but maybe looking at SkySight, it might be just a smaller window from any time from noon to 1:30, and but it's actually surprisingly good, like 3,500 cloud base or the top of lift, and then have some yellow, which is, oh no, not yellow, the light blue. Let me see again.
Well, I'll take a look at it.
Yeah.
I didn't get in from working until after 6 o'clock, so I didn't have a lot of time here to look at this thing. So anyway, I'll take a look at it.
Wait a minute, Lynn, you were working?
Well, I'm working out in my pasture. I've cut down some fir trees that were on a fence line. I'm putting up a new fence, and so I had to get them out. These are big trees. They're like 30 inches in diameter. And I got them all cut up and everything, delimbed, and I've I've got most of the limbs piled up, but my neighbor brought in a chipper and he wanted to chip a bunch of stuff. So now I started pulling stuff off the pile to get it into the chipper.
So how much per hour do you get paid for that? How much does Carol pay you per hour to do that?
I do things for her. She thinks I'm playing, so I need to pay her. I'm building, I've got 1,000 feet of fencing I'm putting in of 6 foot no climb fence. I put in big posts. These are 10 foot long, 6-inch diameter treated wood posts for the ends of the fence line, and then 4-inch diameter, 10 foot long for intermediate posts. So, and then T-posts in between those. So it's a lot of work. I haven't started doing that. I tried to dig holes and it was so doggone wet as they're filling up with water. So I'm waiting until it dries out a little bit.
Sounds like government work defense.
Yeah. But anyway, it's just trying to get rid of barbed wire fencing. I don't like barbed wire at all. So I'm putting up this no climb so animals can't run into it and get hurt. Anyhow, that's what I've been doing the last 2 days. But it looked like it might be good tomorrow. I mean, I looked at the weather this afternoon. It looked really good here. And I thought, well, maybe it'll be good tomorrow. So I hurriedly sent a message to Rita and says, I don't remember how to get into that sky site. So I gotta look at that tonight. And then if it looks good, I gotta charge the batteries.
Yeah, I
that
think
sounds
it
good.
could worth it. I think it could worth it. I just don't know. I didn't look into the details that much, what happens after 1:30, but it's actually looks like 2.5, 3.5 knot lift for about a couple of hours and 2.5, 3,500 feet base. So it could worth it to set it up.
What are the winds on the ground? Were they from the south primarily?
Oh, let me check.
That's a longer taxiway to get down to the south.
Oh. Let's see. Actually, looks like light wind, 3 knots, and it's northwest wind on the surface.
Okay, I can go start at the normal diagonal,
Or-
and that'll
yeah.
be good.
Yes, at noon it's 1 knot at the airport and a little bit the northwesterly direction. And it stays like that for a while and then gets 3 knots, but it's still not bad. And then switches a little bit more southwesternly around 2 o'clock.
Oh, okay.
According
Alrighty.
to the site.
Yeah, I'll take a look
Lynn,
at
we're
it.
gonna have to get you going in Soaring Nirvana there. You gotta have that thing assembled, just roll it in and roll it out.
Well, that's what I normally do, but I hook it up to the back of my car to take it out to the launch position. Just a lot easier than pushing it. But now, George, if I can get George to come out there, he can tow the daggone thing up there for me.
And maybe he should fly too.
Yeah, well, I'll see if it looks good. I got to get off here so I can check it. If it looks good, I'll send him an email and see if he wants to be there. Yeah.
Okay, well, if nobody's got any other stuff, I'm just gonna shut it down.
Yeah. Okay.
That's all.
All
Hey,
right.
Lynn,
Yeah.
you could be leading the charge for the SGC by flying tomorrow.
Yeah, there you go. I get on the OLC and be the first one.
Yeah, March
maybe other
2nd.
people have flown. I don't know. Brad flew though. He flew in Hawaii, so
Oh,
I'm talking about Western Washington. So
well, I flew last fall, but it's still been about 4 or 5 months. So anyway,
I think you'll remember how.
yeah, I think so.
Okay, I'm gonna
After,
hit end. If anybody's
50
got anything else going on, I'm gonna hit end in 10 seconds.
Okay, let's talk to you all later.
Good night, everybody. Thanks for attending.
Yeah, good night.
Good night. Good night.
Good night, everybody.